Welcome, folks. Glad to be here today for the Disability Pride panel discussion. Really looking forward to this. Um, Joined today by some absolutely wonderful folks, also fellow members of the Wear Your Stripes team, Leatrice Kitty, Lore Curator, and Peach-tastic. Let me give you all shout outs. Please do go give these wonderful, wonderful folks follows as I do this. If you are not following them already, because they are absolutely amazing and you are missing out. So today we are exploring the intersections of disability, chronic illness, and aspec identity. And so the reason that I wanted to explore this, obviously July is Disability Pride Month, but beyond that, disability and aspec identity exist in this really difficult intersection um, that is worth exploring for so many reasons. So, as all of us being individuals navigating chronic illness and disability, we all face discrimination and erasure at not only the institutional level, but also we see structural as well as many systemic barriers navigating education, gaming, here on Twitch and other content creation spaces, obviously healthcare, and so many other aspects of our lives. And unfortunately, this also extends in many cases to many of the 2S LGBTQIA plus spaces that we as ASPEC individuals often find ourselves in. And for ASPEC folks in particular, many of the stereotypes that society often holds around our identities, unfortunately, as ASPEC individuals, we are often cast as juvenile, uninterested in, or worse yet, unworthy of relationships, amongst many other really unfair and problematic stereotypes. But many of these same stereotypes are also applied to us as disabled and chronic disabled individuals and folks navigating chronic illness. And as such, as disabled aspects, we often exist in this duality where our lived experiences as disabled folks are often ignored or erased by the broader ASPEC and 2S LGBTQIA plus community. But also, on the other hand, our ASPEC identities are in many cases ignored or erased by the broader disabled community. And so to give an example here, compulsory sexuality and amatonormativity have often forced many folks in ASPEC communities to say, hey, we aren't broken. We too are just like you. And then at the same time, due to ableism, it's often led to this incorrect assumption that our ASPEC identities are because we are disabled. And this belief, unfortunately, is often echoed across the broader disabled community. And so this is a really important concept and a really important intersection to discuss here on the podcast. And so today, I am very grateful to be joined by three amazing folks. And I'd like to start with some introductions. And let's start with Leatrice Kitty. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know who you are and anything you'd like to share.
Hey y'all, I'm Leatrice Kitty. You can call me Leah or Leatrice. My pronouns are she, they. I am biromantic, gray, asexual who is not sex repulsed. I have PCOS, otherwise known as polycystic ovary syndrome, arthritis, ADHD, depression, and PTSD. I got the whole cabinet here. Pleasure to meet y'all.
Thank you so much, Leatrice. And not me realizing that all of you were muted that entire time on my layout.
Oh no.
We caught most of your introduction, thankfully, but they missed my entire introduction.
Oh
So
no.
well done. Little out of the practice here. Lore, can you introduce yourself?
Well, I mean, it's 3:30. We could just start again. We're on time.
True.
Just wipe it. Go again.
Yeah. So just to
End
summarize,
stream, delete the mod, and start over.
I'll summarize again after we do our introductions, just to recap
Sounds
what
good.
Laura, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Lore. On Twitch and other socials, I go by Lore Curator. I am a queer and disabled person. I use labels like, gender queer, as well as I am demisexual and panromantic. I am happily married to someone who is allosexual, which makes things a little bit interesting. I'm also neurodivergent and chronically ill. I've lived with depression since my early teens, and I've also I grew up being half blind, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 19 years old. So I've been living with that for a long time because it's been almost a decade and a half ish. We're from like 2012-ish area of my life, so long time. I don't know what else there is to say other than I do work in disability and healthcare, and the intersections of queer identity and disabled identities are interesting and of like general interest to me. I like to do advocacy in both spaces, and I like to kind of show how they overlap. So yeah, I'm always happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And obviously your PhD topic is also related to that as well.
In a kind of a roundabout way, like it's related to doctors listening to disabled patients.
Mm-hmm.
Less so queer identities, but I feel like what I'm arguing can be very easily expanded beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pete, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Some folks may already know you, but please, for the folks that do not know you already.
Well, hello. I'm my full legal name is Peachtastic, sometimes with a TTV on the end, like on Instagram. But you can call me Peach, Peachy, Peaches, Peacheria. I don't know. Whatever you like. I qualify myself as ace flux because I grab a lot of the ace umbrellas, and like partly aromantic and partly panromantic, and not sex repulsed, but just sex uninterested, unmotivated, no reason to be doing the sex things. It just doesn't really cross my mind. And whether I'm with someone that I like and trust or whatever, like just not really something. Welcome to Peach's Pizzeria, where Peach. Very good, very good. So yeah, I'm Peach. I'm a content creator. I create content on Twitch. I also create crochet things as well. If you're interested in checking that out, you could check out my Ko-Fi. That may not post in yours. It won't.
It seemed to come through on my end.
Oh, one of them did. Good. Okay, great. I know some of the bots don't go through on Shoot. Anyway, fun facts are about me are I like sharks, and I do all this while having a full-time job. I'm an engineer, and yeah, that's me. I can't think of anything else.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I want to apologize again for you looking at me speak for about 3 minutes with the mic off and nobody being able to hear us. But
Doing great.
what I would like to just sort of recap here before we get started is this idea that compulsory sexuality and amatonormativity, so the assumption that everyone desires to be in a coupled monogamous romantic partnership, have often forced the aspec community to say, hey, we're not broken and we too are just like you. And then on the other hand, we have ableism leading to this incorrect assumption and often pathologization by medicine that our aspec identities are because we are somehow disabled. And this belief, unfortunately, is echoed within the broader disabled community and in many disabled spaces. And so, as disabled aspects, as aspects dealing with chronic illness, we're in this really difficult juxtaposition and this difficult kind of duality almost. And so, this is a really important discussion to be having today. And welcome on in, Duke. Yes, Courtney Lane, the creator of Disabled Ace Day, is absolutely here in spirit. And actually, Micktastic, whom many of you might know from the podcast, has actually had the opportunity to speak on Courtney's podcast. So that's the Ace Couples podcast. So maybe one day we'll be able to reach out.
That is a whole
Yes.
other discussion.
Yes.
But I feel like it kind of plays into today's discussion just a little bit in terms of like how disability complicates realizing your ace.
Oh, absolutely it does, for sure. And I know that one of the questions will sort of tackle that to varying degrees. And welcome on in, folks. Good to see you. Space Cactus, obviously good to see you. Duke, always good to see you. Hey, Kat, how's it going? So the first question I have today evolves around my favorite topic that many of you know I like to go on many, many rants about. And that is amatonormativity that we defined earlier as this assumption that it's a universal desire to be in a monogamous, romantic, and exclusive relationship. And then we also have allonormativity, the assumption that everyone desires to be in a sexual relationship and we desire to have sex. And this sort of goes along more broadly with compulsory sexuality. And there's so much information in the resources document that I'm linking here that I highly encourage you to check out if you'd like to learn more about these things. But these sort of three...
Fin romantic.
Sorry?
What's fin romantic?
Feminine, like romantic feelings towards feminine people, if I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. So that's a way to say, like, specifically femme, but not necessarily AFAB. Is the
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think some folks use it to describe romantic attraction in cases where they themselves might not identify as like sapphic.
Right.
Yeah, because that would be, you yourself are femme or femme leaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. I love all the terms I learn
Yeah, I've learned
in
so
these
much
chats.
through the podcast and in many of the spaces that I've come to, you know, chat with
Oh,
folks.
Tara redeemed a hydrate. I've got my water
Oh,
too.
Right.
make
Oh,
sure
this
you
is too heavy.
hydrate.
Hold on.
I'll hydrate
Cheers.
as well.
Also, hello to Virva.
Mm.
We were fundraising for Virva last week, and it was an absolutely amazing mutual aid train that we had the opportunity to participate in. Had a lot of good laughs during that mutual aid train. It was a fantastic time.
I was surprised that there was a award ceremony afterwards that actually made me quite emotional, despite the
Aww.
poor name that none of us realized. I think the acronym would be a problem until the acronym was made.
What was the
Called
acronym?
the CIS Awards, because the theme of the mutual aid was the something is survival. So what was the first word? I can't remember.
Connection?
What was the what were the letters?
Connection?
CIS, connection is survival.
Community. Yeah.
Community is survival. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm like, which one is
So,
it?
so on
Uh,
Virva's channel, the raid command was sysraid, and we all just absolutely cackled.
It was a great time, but I was
Out
really
that.
honored that I got an award for coming in and helping out. But after, like, I wasn't able to do my raid slot because I was dealing with a sick kitty. So
Aw.
I was just
Yeah.
happy I got to help out. But yeah, the awards were kind of emotionally overwhelming for me.
Aw.
But
No.
it was nice to be there. I'm glad I got to help out.
Absolutely.
Also, hi Tara, welcome
Yeah,
in.
good to see you, Tara, fellow Wear Your Stripes teammate as well.
Last seen playing Final Fantasy 13.
Yippee!
Oh, and you've got an advertisement coming up.
There's
yeah.
gonna be a bunch of those from my channel as well.
Yeah, I did not mean to give that away, but I'll be in a Disability Pride raid train on the 16th.
We'll be getting
That'll be
posts
fun.
from Raid Pal and ReadyBot in my channel at some point.
It's just gonna be a whole thing.
Yeah,
That's okay.
absolutely. So the first question, kind of building
back on track.
Yeah, on amatonormativity and allonormativity as aspec individuals is how have amatonormative and allonormative assumptions impacted your ability to realize and connect with your identity as aspec individuals?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, because I've been thinking a lot about my connection to my romantic identity is not necessarily as strong as like my connection to the other parts of myself, and that's only because I don't really fit into traditional conceptions of like romantic relationships and romantic like partnerships. Like my spouse and I made it very clear to each other in our vows that like this is above all, like we are friends, we are companions, but like this is a social contract. We don't complete each other, we don't complete our sense of self or anything like that. It's very much like we are dedicated to each other and it's a choice we're making. And like that choice has to be reaffirmed, and it also has to be like affirmed with the sense that like we're both individuals, and like that kind of sense of freedom is very important to me, because as somebody who doesn't get jealous, I also don't like it when my partner gets jealous. And I find that like figuring out who I was in a space where jealousy seemed to be the norm growing up, where like you were expected to be jealous of other people interacting with your partner. I was like, well, I don't feel that way. And so it like made things really weird to conceptualize when I was figuring out that I was ace, because it's like I still want to be in romantic relationships, but I don't have that kind of like sexual desire or sexual attraction that like other folks that I was dating at the time and whatnot had. And for me, it was like, well, how do I wrap my head around this? Because like I'm not wanting to limit my partner or any potential partner I have if I'm not desiring something, but I still want to be with them romantically. And so it became always like a point for me to openly acknowledge to whoever I was, dating at the time, to say like, if you desire more than I do in this realm, I don't mind if you have other partners or other like or if you want to engage sexually with others but still just be tied to me romantically. Like, I'm not a jealous person and I'm not a very possessive person. But I think that our standards of like this need for single coupled monogamous, like they're not allowed to touch anybody else, they're not allowed to be physically affectionate with anybody else, that has like really warped people's understanding of like what acceptable like affection for others looks like, because it always inherently becomes a sexual thing, or becomes like, oh, you're cheating, or you're stepping a boundary. And I feel like these things complicated my like desire for romantic relationships, but also desire to not restrict who I was with. It makes things hard, because you're like, I just want to be myself, and I am being told that I'm weird because I don't feel these things. And then it goes, well, maybe I am weird. And then you have to kind of deal with that before you can deal with like, well, what does this mean for me? I don't know. It's a mess.
And that is so common within ASPEC communities. And, you didn't mention it, but you brought up something that we've talked about many times here on the podcast. And this is the idea that as ASPEC individuals, often the way that we see relationships is different than for, allonormative and I guess folks who are not ASPEC, I should say. And so we have this unique and different perspective compared to most people about, how relationships can and do look like. And so I think that's why many of us, not everyone, but many folks in ASPEC communities are drawn to anti-hierarchical relationship philosophies like relationship anarchy. And so that sort of sparked me thinking about, because I always seem to find all roads lead to relationship anarchy in ASPEC spaces. I mean, I'm over exaggerating, but just how many people in ASPEC spaces have an appreciation for, if it's not relationship anarchy, just anti-hierarchical relationship philosophies in general.
I will say, just while I'm thinking about it, and then I'll shut up, that I think not.
No, you're doing great.
Yeah, you're totally
I think not fitting into those understandings of like expected relationships, expected sexualities, kind of makes you have to think about what you want and what you and like the limits and the potential, like the potentials, I guess, of what relationships can look like, because nothing you see fits what you think is going to fit you, so you have to actually extend what's possible. And I think disability also does the same thing, where like in my case, growing up disabled, I had to learn how to navigate like spaces and places differently. More so as I like acquired more disabilities, and I think you start thinking not just outside the box, but like literally new worlds, new possible worlds, become like at the forefront of what you're thinking about.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you also brought up, the disability aspect, giving us this other perspective as well that we're trying to navigate relationships from. Any thoughts, Leatrice?
Yeah, no, it's definitely weird how like you're so used to society that it's hard to think differently. Like for me personally, and trigger warning for mild essay discussion. It took me a long time to figure out I was on the ACE spectrum. I grew up kind of sheltered. I only had a simple gay straight alliance in both high school and college. They didn't really know what asexuality was, and I only knew the general ACE term of no attraction, no sex, sex repulse. So it didn't fit me. So I didn't think about it. I didn't have the vocabulary or the research. And so I was dating someone in college. And, I'm not sex repulsed. I love reading, smut. I'm all for it, but I don't necessarily want to participate actively. And so it's hard and I think being biromantic made it worse too, because I could fall in love. I could do anything in a relationship that anyone else could, but I didn't want to do the sexual participation part. And it brought out insecurities in my partner. And unfortunately, it led to some unfortunate situations within that relationship. I luckily got out of it. But even then, I still didn't know. I thought something was wrong with me. He thought, I was like autistic. Not that that's either here nor there. That doesn't correlate. I thought something physically was
does
up with
it?
me. I mean,
It's
I don't
not
know,
a cause. It's not
not
a
a
cause.
Yes,
There are
it's not a cause.
correlations.
yes.
yeah.
I find a lot of autistic friends on the ACE spectrum.
Yes. I mean, I haven't gotten tested, though my psychiatrist has heavily hinted that I should, but
You have been peer reviewed.
yeah,
The
regardless.
autism in me sees the autism in you.
Yeah, I think a lot of us here have been peer reviewed in a lot of ways.
I've
But
also
yes,
been
it's expensive.
specialist
It's
approved.
very expensive.
Yeah.
I do have a for people in the US, I
Mhm.
have a suggestion that may work for people. It was only $75 for me because I had already met my deductible for the year.
Okay, nice. I am in the US, so I would take that in a DM later.
Yeah. Let me just do that
I
right
am
now.
not in the US, but can we lie and say I am just for a moment?
Right? Hi, Dan. Welcome in.
Welcome on in, Dan. And I was going to mention that last year during the Pride Talks, I had the opportunity to speak with Glasses Journal, and they brought up that almost all smut inevitably turns out to be written by somebody on the ACE spectrum. So when you said
I'm
that,
not surprised.
I was laughing hard because I was like, this is a clip I should just have available to play at any given time.
I saw
but I
you
have a
laughing. I had the
theory.
stream up, and I was like, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
I do have a theory. I have a theory. I think it's because when you're not as invested, we'll say, when you're not looking to participate all the time, and like I'm not sex repulsed, because I'm demi, a lot of my attraction and my desire for sex with my like partners and like presently and in the past has all been tied to my emotional connection and just my emotional states. Like if I'm not having a good time, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And to me it's a sign of affection and of my feelings for the person. More than it's like an active desire. But I do think because you're not wanting to necessarily participate and you're more of an active observer, you're better at conveying it because you're noticing the things that people are into without being too self-invested, I think. And I think that's like, for me as somebody who writes and who is an artist, I pay a lot of attention to people. I people watch. I observe more than I think a lot of folks tend to observe. And I think part of that is like the neurodivergency as well. But like, it helps. Echo says it's also different when you're writing something and it's other people versus about yourself. Exactly. When you're not doing a self-insert, imagine it's a little bit easier to get like really into it in terms of like the investment in the writing.
Absolutely. 100%. That's a really, really
I
good
also
point.
think it's because like ace people like get more technical about it, and so it's actually more accurate, whereas like allosexual, I feel like they focus more on the passion. So when you read a scene and you're just like, that, how does that physically work here? Trying to look at logistics, and I'm not seeing it. But it's a fun scene regardless.
I personally don't read a whole lot of smut, just because like I got a lot of shit on my plate right now. But like it always is amazing to me that people are able to write really beautiful stuff that is very raunchy. I love the delicate balance of this is very poetic, but like if you really think about what they're doing here, this is a little bit much.
Yep. Echo was an absolute amazing creator, and also filled in so many times to help out for the mutual aid train that Laura and I were a part of in various ways. Echo won the award for basically saving the most slots that needed to be backed up.
Echo also won quite a few of the giveaways,
Yes. Yeah.
which I think is very like fitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think like there's something about not seeing, I don't know. I want to like, it's a weird line here because I'm like, I want to see more like actual representation of humanity, like broadly speaking, because like humans are so diverse and interesting. And I want to see more ace rep and more like just diverse representation in media. But I do think there is something to be said about the ways in which like your experience coming in contact with like the world, and the friction that causes, creating the ideals for a better future and for a better way of progressing. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless.
Peach says bless. But like not seeing yourself, and this happens a little bit with disability as well. Garland Thompson is a disability theorist who writes about misfitting and how your body, your mind, your experiences not fitting in the world and the world not being built with you in mind makes you have to learn how to navigate that world differently and makes you have to adapt. And that adaptation in the case of disability, so like some of the examples that I've seen is when you don't rely on your eyesight, in my case, you pick up weird things that help you navigate spaces. Like if I'm walking through a hospital corridor, like everything blends and there's not enough visual distinction for me to be able to like go, oh, there's more than just wall here. So I use just like I have a hand on the guide rail along the wall and I just use that to guide myself so I'm not like swaying a lot. and bumping into folks that might otherwise not realize that I can't see them. But there's like little things like that that actually end up helping in emergency situations, right? Where you're not like, if it's smoking and you can't see and you're not reliant on your vision, you can actually help people out and get them out. Not saying that this is like a roundabout experience of disability, but there is something to be said about the fact that like your experiences hitting, you know, the actual real world, the physical world that is not built with you in mind, creates a friction that can create a kind of creativity and adaptation that helps you go beyond what's currently possible, mentally or otherwise, and create like new ways of thinking and thinking about the world and new ways of navigating it. And I think like ace identity is definitely one of those things that has helped me in terms of thinking differently about relationships, because I don't have these kinds of desires that people seem to have. Part of that is a little bit of the neurodivergency for sure, where I'm just like, I don't think about people in the stereotypical ways, and I don't think about relationships in the stereotypical ways. But also my desires seem to be different than what other folks would think that they should be, and that has helped me kind of like navigate relationships differently.
I can certainly relate on many levels to, you know, when I came to understand my aspec identity, the way that I started thinking about relationships and what they could look like was really broadened, and it helped me really kind of see differently what relationships mean to me. And I was not trying to view it through this narrow lens that was imposed on me by amatonormativity and allonormativity that were told from the time that we're like 3 years old. There's only one type of relationship, and it's going to look like this, and it's going to follow these exact steps.
I will
Yeah,
say
I
though,
definitely. Oh,
sorry, Peach. You go ahead. I've talked
Okay.
enough. I've talked enough.
I definitely feel like my relationship anarchy definitely went way off the deep end once I started realizing my aspect labels, how it related to me, and when I started realizing more of my neurodivergence and really coming into my autism, it it made me really re-look at my relationships, and in the way that, like, I don't really qualify sexuality or sexual things as a necessary part of a relationship. So I kind of turn friendships into relationships in a way.
They are a
But
type of
it's
relationship.
it's in a very polyamorous way. I I will create close connections with people, and they are a relationship, in my harem of relationships.
I like that.
But
Yes.
I don't feel the need to like limit
No,
myself.
absolutely. And you know, I think many of us also in aspec communities, you kind of you
But I'm
brought
also
up
married as a cis, looking like a
mm-hmm,
cishet relationship.
mm-hmm. Yes, very very
And
understandable.
I'm asexual and he's pansexual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's unfortunate that, you know, the way that society reads relationships is so heavily informed by these assumptions, and that it doesn't allow us to see that, hey, these relationship structures are actually very different than what you think they are. But it's because we're societies informed by all these different
Hi, Jams.
Hey, Jams, good to see you. Another Wear Your Stripes team member. How's it going? Good to see you.
Another stripey.
Yep. Also a huge Pokemon fan.
Pokemon. Gotta catch 'em all.
And we've sort of talked about, community to varying degrees so far. But I would like to sort of turn the focus a little bit and think more broadly about how these societal norms around desire and around relationships have impacted your ability to find community in whatever way that means to you.
Well, I think for me, I got very, 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 very lucky. I have two best friends from college. I've known them for, it'll actually be our 10-year anniversary,
Sorry.
September.
That's really
Congrats.
gross. Sorry.
It's all good. And they were very accepting when I finally came out a couple years ago as Gray Ace. Of course, they had some questions, but they were asked in very good faith and they accepted me for who I was. And they even actively, go out of their way to support me in their own way, which is very nice. I will say outside of that, it's sometimes tricky. Like I have people just not understanding what asexuality is in general. I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're bi-romantic. You haven't been with a woman. You can't say you're ace yet." And I'm like, that's not how that works.
Mm-mm.
Um, so it can be a bit tricky because they think you have to check all these boxes and go through all the motions of like knocking out theories before you can finally reach what they see as the end goal or lack thereof. But luckily through streaming, I found a lot of A-spec individuals. So I've been very fortunate, but it definitely has had its weird moments. And some people need filters.
Yeah. And unfortunately, for some folks, no matter how much evidence that you give them that, hey, my lived experience has always been this, it's not enough for them to say, all right, I believe you. They're like, but what about if 50 years down the road this finally happens? And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
for fuck's sake, why are you dictating my identity to me and you don't even know me? That's happened to me several times at Pride before, and it is so infuriating.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I feel like this might have been a recent experience.
Happened last year. Thankfully not this year, but it happened last year.
It's too recent.
I would say that, like, for me, and this is going a little bit back to what Leatrice was saying about their relationship in the past. So, like, similar content warning. I'm not gonna go into too much, but like, I was in a very long term, like, before this, it was my longest relationship, I would say. Like before the one that I'm currently with my spouse. So I was with somebody who is a cishet man for about 4 years, and like my asexuality did seem to make him also feel like insecure and stuff, which is not like a justification; it's just a explanation. So we had very similar experiences to like it was definitely like toxic. It was definitely like, you know, semi-abusive in certain ways, and like realizing I was ace and coming out to him and him responding with, well, that's not natural, actually was the instigator for me leaving. Because I went, all right,
Red flag.
this is it. And me leaving and turning towards my friends at the time and who are still my friends, and like relying on them in ways that I probably hadn't in the past because I was with people like someone romantically who was very much like that stereotypical, like, I'm gonna be your source of support, blah blah blah. Actually, I think is one of the reasons why I'm here where I am today. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, you turn to community because you're having a shit time, and it kind of snowballs. Like, you kind of realize, like, well, if these people are affirming me as I am, I don't need to settle for folks who aren't willing to meet all of that. And like, as somebody who, you know, grew up in a undereducated, lower income household, I don't come with like a little amount of emotional baggage. I come with a lot of emotional baggage, as I'm sure most of us do. And like dealing with like the trauma and depression and other disabilities and chronic illness, like it's a lot to for folks who don't understand like disability and queer justice stuff and the complexities of social justice issues. It seems like a lot to ask of somebody, even like a friend, to meet you where you're at. But I think realizing there will be people who will meet you there, has encouraged me to be more affirmative of myself, which helped me not only like build community spaces and participate actively in them, but like affirm my identity as somebody who's demisexual, affirm my identity as someone who is not gender conforming and who is genderqueer, and then like be able to put myself out there in terms of like spaces like this. So it's a weird, like, I don't know, process. But I will say that like my mom, for the longest time, until my spouse and I were engaged, thought I would marry a woman. So it was a weird, like, she still expected like marriage and kids, but not in your typical heterosexual format. So I think it's still a challenge sometimes with family, but I think having that community at my back has really helped me overall.
That's hilarious because my dad said the same thing to me. He thought I was a lesbian and was very shocked to find out otherwise.
What do you mean you're not a lesbian? Sorry, Mom, I have something else to tell you. Not only am I not a lesbian, but I'm also not a girl.
Surprise!
Yeah, my mom has found it a challenge to come to terms with me coming out as non-binary in the past couple of years, and it's been a very frustrating process for sure.
We feel for you. I'll be your mom now.
Thank you.
You just can't call me mommy.
No.
Like, Mama Peach is as far as I'll go.
Sorry, I immediately am dying because I unmuted myself to be hit with Mama Peach is as far as I'll go. Like, okay.
I feel like you'll even regret Mama Peach at some point. Someone's gonna
That's
ruin
what
it.
I named myself in my own Discord. It's all right.
Amazing.
Look at Jazz's comments.
No. You'll never know.
I don't know, James. What did
I'll
you
be
hear?
your mom, and Echo will be your dad. Perfect. And Echo and I are married now.
All right. Reaffirming the
Yes.
hetero or the oh my god,
We're your
amato
family.
normativity.
Yeah.
There we go.
We're your family now.
I personally am happy to be your parent's weird sibling.
Mood.
I'm not gonna be your parent because
No.
when it comes to children, they're cute and all, but I would like to send them home at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I do not want any baby children, but I will take the fucked up adults that need to like fix like shit from their childhood. That I'm good with.
I'm happy. So okay, so little tangent if we're talking about community and family.
You'll wear gifts at our wedding. You don't if you don't remember it, it's because everybody got drugged.
Yeah. My choir recently performed a song that's called Chosen Family. And that song, there's a line that like I feel like everybody, or at least most folks singing it, actually like will find a line and be like, okay, that kind of is too close to home, and it's gutting. And there's a line that's like basically like, tell me who made you walk all the way here. And it's like talking about people being like, I'm gonna start crying. It's talking about like, you know, I'm going to be your chosen family. I'm going to choose to be your family because other folks are choosing not to. And it's hearing people sing some of the solos in that song. And I've done one of the solos before, but like, it's hard. It's hard to sing without choking up because it's just talking about like that very common queer experience of finding family and community in other people because the family and the people who are supposed to be that for you decided not to be. And I do say decided because it's, you know, if you kick a kid out, that is a choice. Just because they're gay or they're queer or whatever, that is a blatant choice. If you decide to be hostile so your kid estranges themselves, that is a choice. You can choose to understand instead.
100%. And chosen family is, as you mentioned, so important to so many folks in you know the queer community. And for me here, you know, having moved 3,000 kilometers, 2,200 miles away from where I grew up, it's the chosen family that I have in my life that has meant so much for me here locally, and you know has really got me through some really tough years here over the past 10 years. And so I'm really glad that you brought up chosen family and acknowledging that family through an amatonormative lens is a very narrow definition of family that many of us, you know, see past and say, hey, but that's not the only. Yo, Tulip, thank you so much for gifting a gift sub to Echo. Welcome to the Guard Shop Club. Thank you so much.
And to Peaches chat.
Aw.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so
That's
much,
hilarious.
Tulip.
Wedding gifts.
We do unfortunately have an ad break coming up here. And so I might use this opportunity to go refill my water bottle and step away from the PC.
That's actually an amazing idea. I'm also out of water.
Yeah. So
I've been sitting down for the last hour and a half, so I need to move.
Yeah. So
we should take a break.
Yeah, let's swap over to BRB, and we'll come back in a few minutes and jump on to the next question. So see ya in a few. And welcome back on my side, folks. Thank you so much for sticking around through the break. So we talked a lot about, you know, the impacts of amatonormativity, allonormativity, compulsory sexuality, and more broadly, societal norms influencing the way that we may have seen relationships prior to coming to understand our own aspec identity. And we talked about how this, you know, has impacted our ability in many ways to find community. one of the other things that I'd like to bring up around this is that many of these issues, like allonormativity, compulsory sexuality, are actually part of a much larger entrenched power structure that includes white supremacy and patriarchal control. And through this, compulsory sexuality decides who is allowed to be sexual and under what circumstances they are permitted to be sexual. It often leads to the paradoxical simultaneous hypersexualization and desexualization of marginalized identities, as Sharonda J. Brown talks in great detail about in Refusing Compulsory Sexuality, a Black asexual lens on our sex-obsessed cultures. And so this happens to BIPOC individuals. This happens to many folks in the queer community. But also, compulsory sexuality dictates that as disabled individuals, we must be desexualized. And then on top of this, in society, it's often that libido and sexual attraction are conflated. And so this leads to, in many cases, a pathologization of asexuality in medicine and by society at large. And as asexual individuals, we're often told that we can't actually be asexual. That's simply an issue with your libido. But then, just to make things even trickier, chronic illnesses can impact one's libido, and trying to navigate all these simultaneous circumstances and paradoxical situations at once absolutely must make navigating relationships and our identities extremely difficult. So I wanted to ask, how have many of these simultaneous and often contrasting assumptions impacted your ability to come to understand your aspec identity? So that could be, obviously asexuality, but also to come to understand aromanticism, any other aspect of your aspec identity.
Well, for me, so I talked earlier how I'm kind of like a confusing mess, which is why it took me a while to figure out I'm on the A spectrum. I actually personally have a high libido. And so that is the first thing people ask me. And I was like, well, as you mentioned, they're not the same. Being attracted to something or someone is not the same as feeling yourself personally. So it definitely is difficult because my chronic illness comes into the effect of like my depression. Like I do want to, if my partners are interested, to assist them of my own accord, but if my depression gets in the way, combined with my gray aceness, it like dampens the whole thing. So it definitely made it difficult for me to understand because again, I have all of these contrasting parts of myself. It took reading a book to figure out my aceness. It took a graphic novel actually from the library, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But yeah, I think once people get the idea that libido and sexual attraction are different, they kind of like clears the light bulb in their heads. They're just so used to conflating the two because they've never had to experience it otherwise. But I have found great success once I differentiate the two for them that they're like, oh, I don't fully get it, but I understand a little bit. And I'm like, yes, spreading the ASPEC agenda a little bit.
We love to hear that.
I
The
definitely. Sorry, Peach. What did you say?
No, I just said the agenda.
The agenda. The only gay
Mhm.
agenda
Mhm.
that there might be. I had similar conversations with my spouse actually when we first. Oh, hey, we got a raid.
Yo, welcome on in.
Wow.
Good to see you, Lonnie. Good to
The
see
gay
you.
agenda?
Thank you
Yeah,
so
but
much.
this.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
agenda?
The gay agenda, the ASPEC agenda. Thank you so much for raiding in. Absolutely lovely to see you. How was the rest of your stream, Lonnie? Thank you so much for raiding in. We have a wonderful group of folks who are all part of the Wear Your Stripes team, and we're having some really fantastic discussions on the intersections of disability, chronic illness, and ASPEC identity. And thank you so much again for raiding on in. Let me give you a shout out. I made a typo. Sorry about that.
Why I can't talk and type.
No.
There we
It's like
go.
trying to talk and draw for me too. It's like I can't. I can't. I'm trying to figure out hands here. I can't be social and talking at you either at the same time. I was going to say that like it was, I don't know. It's an interesting perspective, I think, for me to realize that like, all right, let's jump ahead and then we'll jump back. When I realized that I wanted top surgery, I realized that like it was in contradiction to what I wanted as a as a teenager, which was to have a bigger bust. And I only wanted that because I wanted people to find me desirable, but I didn't actually want to be desirable in a traditional way. I just wanted friends and people to like care about me. So it created a whole dissection of like my self-esteem issues. But like that wouldn't have started until I was thinking about my asexuality identity before that, which was like very much tied to an exploration of like wanting people to desire me in certain ways, not necessarily sexual ways, but wanting to like be with me romantically or otherwise, while also like being disabled. And at the time that I was realizing I was ace, I was just really starting to get my bearings again after about a 2-year struggle with Crohn's disease, which required many hospital visits, many ER visits, hospital stays, a major surgery, like all to kind of like put it under control. And that was in my first 2 years of undergrad. And I was dealing with a very toxic relationship at the same time. So like it was like I don't want disability to dictate whether or not I'm desirable, because like growing up, like being disabled made me less like, I don't know, like I was automatically assumed to be less desirable by my classmates and stuff, right? Like it's that kind of like complicated thing. And so like trying to both be like, no, my disability is not, the limiting factor here, while also being like, I'm just not interested in the same way so my partner at the time was. And being like, is this because I'm dealing with chronic pain? Is this because I'm recovering from a chronic pain like episode of like 2 years? Or is this just me? And like trying to deal with that, like I'm not broken, but maybe there is something going on, or like maybe this is just the way I am. All of those complicated things get wrapped up, and it makes it incredibly difficult to navigate, because like on the one hand you're like, I don't want people to assume that because I'm disabled I'm not interested, like I'm just asexual as like a default because of my disability. But at the same time, I don't want either disability or my asexuality to be negative things. I don't want people to look at it as like, oh, woe is you, because I was dealing with that a lot during my diagnosis and everything with Crohn's disease. People would look at me like, oh, you poor thing, you're only 19 and you've got, like, your world is ending. And I'm like, my world's not fucking ending. Don't talk to me like that. But yeah, it's really complicated because people look at asexuality as, and I think being aromantic as well, as like a bad thing. Like this is like there's something wrong with you. We have to figure out what it is. So they see it as a disability or an impairment.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't want people thinking my disability is a bad thing, because I think that it's changed my life in good ways as well as bad. I'd rather them let me define what it means to me. So it ends up being a whole tangled mess. But I definitely think that because I was dealing with a chronic illness at the time, on top of depression and trying to leave like a toxic relationship, it made it difficult for me to process what was me and what was like the illness or the symptoms that I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I see we have a lot of stuff in chat.
Yeah, been lots and lots
People
of
are
good discussions.
chatting.
Yeah.
People are chatting. That's what they do in chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And adding to the conversation, absolutely. Yes, I absolutely agree that playing video games and hanging out is a lot more interesting than the spicy tango, for sure.
Oh, the fluids.
I love that.
I just read that. And fluids, yes. Ugh. And the smells.
The
Anyway.
look on my face that y'all can't see.
The fluids.
Moist.
Yeah, it's so difficult when so many of these things are, simultaneously doing things to our libido, and society's trying to tell us another thing, and we don't necessarily understand, as we're growing up, the difference between sexual attraction and libido, because, well, society doesn't talk about that. And so trying to come to grips with that and figure out your identity can be incredibly difficult as a disabled ace or disabled aspec more generally, for sure. Chat
I think I'm
is
caught up on chat.
the chat is and then as disabled aces, the broader ace discourse often, uses refrains like, well, aces aren't broken. We're actually just like you in many ways. And we often see this across the board in social media, in, books, within aspec communities. I have unfortunately said something like this, I think, in the past myself, but this is incredibly, this incredibly erases and is dismissive of, lived experiences of many disabled aces. So how have you navigated this broader discourse that often says, well, aces aren't broken, we're just like you? How have you navigated this as a disabled ace yourself?
I mean, for me, like I was saying, like I tried to just go like, I don't want to be seen as broken because I'm chronically ill or I've got, a mental illness or anything. It's kind of a weird thing where like you understand that these are things that you need to fix or at least manage, right? But like I'm not just because I'm disabled doesn't mean that I'm necessarily broken. It's just a part of human experience, right? Like, I never liked the idea that, like, chronic illness or any other kind of disability is the end of somebody's life. We assume, I don't know, we talk negatively about disability because it can be a loss, it can be a huge transition, it can be traumatizing, and it can be something that is difficult to learn to live with. And because we are so afraid of human vulnerability and human, like, fragility, just socially, I think what folks end up doing is going, this is something that has to be avoided at all cost, and if it happens, it's a disaster. And I think tied with the whole, like, human value is tied to their productivity, right? Like the capitalism mindset. It's one of those things where, like, disability becomes the thing that makes you no longer valuable to others. And so people just kind of go, especially if you come disabled young or you're born disabled, it's like, oh, you're so young, like, this is a tragedy. And I'm like, my disability, becoming chronically ill at 19, made me change my trajectory in ways that are both good and bad. But ultimately, it led me to being with my spouse because I could not handle being with a toxic person. It led me to doing my PhD in disability. And it led to me being more aware of my queer identities. And really taking apart that, like, understanding of asexuality as a broken identity or something like that, like the idea that I'm not broken. And so I think becoming chronically ill and realizing I was ace around the same time allowed me to really break down the toxic ideas we have around aspec identities and disabilities in ways that, like, helped me move forward. And I don't think like realizing one or the other at that time in my life by themselves would have been remotely the same if they weren't together. Like, I feel like that having those realizations at the same time and really toying them apart and then putting them back together was what allowed me to kind of, like, become self-assured in my identities. But I think, again, like, realizing, like, that whole statement of, like, we're not broken, like, I feel like it's so much more nuanced than that. And I think disability allows you to kind of, or at least forces you to reckon with that nuance, right?
Absolutely. And I can certainly relate to many aspects of what you shared. And I never felt, I've lived with, epilepsy from the time I was probably 10 or 11 months old. I was in the hospital a lot as a kid. I, saw specialists and I had all sorts of help at school. But I never once considered myself as being part of the disabled community. And I, for many years, almost felt like I was taking away from others' experiences by referring myself as disabled. And it wasn't until I started to understand my queer identity, become involved in many 2S LGBTQIA plus spaces, and particularly queer and disabled spaces, that I finally felt comfortable in recognizing that, hey, yes, I'm a disabled aspec individual. And took me very, very long time to come to understand my identity as a whole. But it's certainly, it's certainly these many contrasting aspects of our identity can make it really difficult to really understand what your what is your identity, what's, you know, what is, you know, bringing you, or, you know, what's creating this as a part of your aspec experience, what's creating this as a part of your disabled experience, and then, you know, what's the intersection of the two. So I can certainly relate to a lot of what is being said, for sure. And that is so disgusting. I'm so sorry, Snowy the Vampire. Why do people have to say heinous things? Well, I mean, I know society is just a disgusting cesspool in many cases, but I am so sorry. Any other thoughts, Peach? Leatrice?
I guess for me, I actually try and challenge people when they start to question, like, oh, is there just like something wrong with you? Have you seen a doctor? Have you seen that? And I always go, why do you assume I haven't seen a doctor? Why do you assume I don't know what's going on with my body? And while, yes, there are the nuances of some people can't afford healthcare, which is a whole nother discussion with our chronic illnesses, it's something I like to question back at them, because people just automatically assume we live in a world where we don't know or have the desire to not find out about ourselves. But me, I like to question everything. I got in trouble with CCD school when I was raised Catholic, ex-Catholic here. But like I I I just, of course I struggled wondering if I was broke or not myself, but I would never admit that to people outside of the community who are just trying to rage bait me, because I can tell when someone's coming at me with an authentic, responsible question, whereas they're asking inauthentically. So I typically challenge the people that ask inauthentically, because I want them to think. Maybe I won't change their mind. Maybe they won't learn something from this conversation, but I at least want them to think about it. And I think that's very important, whether the conversation is something we can walk away feeling accomplished about. So that's something I typically do with the discourse, is I just try and make them think. Whether I get a change of any kind, that's up to them and what they do in their free time, but I at least want to start the conversation and make it a conversation.
I love
As
that
somebody who
response. Yeah.
I do as well, and I think as somebody who went like fucking head first into philosophy during their masters and then now my PhD, I have a decent sense now of when people are asking good faith questions versus bad faith questions. But I am happy when I've got the energy to do this, to engage folks who are just being bad faith arguers, and create hell for them. Because I can do the same thing. Do you want to ask bad faith questions? I'll throw the same ones out there. Let's go back and forth here. I'm good at asking questions. That's part of what my degree is for, is asking questions. We can play this game all night. If I've got the time and energy, let's have at it. You're gonna leave more frustrated than I will.
Yep. Absolutely.
Spouse slap.
So much incredible discussion in the chat as well. I'm trying to do my best to keep up with it and also listen to all the great conversations we're having here as well.
Mhm.
It's really
I will
lively
say-
chat today.
Yeah, and I will say that just for Tulip, because I saw from about 10
Yeah.
minutes ago, learning, being aspec and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, demisexual falls under aspec because like
100%.
it's tied, like, I mean, Tidy and I have had this conversation before, and I'm sure this has happened on the podcast as well, where it's like ace and arrow identities, like aspec identities, are more about atypical or different approaches to attraction and like relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so many folks I've encountered who are ace sometimes push back and go like, well, like, how are you ace if you're still interested in sexual activity with people? And I'm like, because my interest in them as people is no, like, the sexual identity or the sexual attraction isn't there. But also, my interest in them as people's way at the top, and my interest in them as folks that I can have sex with is like not really on the board. Like,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Arrow, work in academia, conversations had about ableism in academia is wild. Yeah, I do applied philosophy, but I look at issues of healthcare and disability, where I talk about why doctors don't listen to disabled patients and what we can kind of do to fix that. And I go from the angle of basically understanding who's considered knowledgeable in the relationship. So in terms of ableism in academia, I'm right there with you. Like, it's terrible.
Yes.
It's bad.
Yeah, Laura and I have had many discussions and frustrating experiences navigating the university experience on so many levels.
Also, Snowy, I can definitely relate to like getting your period and like not just being jealous of like boys don't have those, but also just like feeling like your body is not yours in that moment. I definitely should have clued in at that time when I was starting to feel that maybe there's something up here, but we don't have the language for it, right? Like growing up, we're not taught that they're, at least with me, because I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, dating myself,
And
like
relate.
you're not given the language you need to explore your identity. And as soon as you're kind of given a little bit of that language, you start going like, well, maybe, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, that's when you have the ability to start questioning, is when you have a language.
Exactly. And I never had a gay straight alliance at school. I never encountered many of the, terminology. Heck, Ace Tumblr wasn't really a thing growing up for me, so it really wasn't until I was well into my 20s that really started to come across a lot of this terminology and start to say, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot here that relates and I can relate to as an individual myself. And prior to that, there was no language to describe my experience. And then I was like, wait a minute. But maybe
I didn't hear the term asexual
Yeah.
until I was 23.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
well into my 20s. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I remember where I was, what was going on, and I was at this festival, and they were having a talk, and somebody was talking about being asexual, and I was like, wait.
I was in a developmental psychology course.
I was 23.
I was, yeah. It's wild, like going into university or happening upon it just at a festival or like anywhere else, like having a friend who grew up differently who ended up getting the language faster. Like all of these things help so much. Like I had a friend who said, like in elementary school, who was like, yeah, I'm bisexual. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she explained, and I'm like, that makes sense. I guess I'm also bi. A decade and a bit later, I'm like, I mean, it's not entirely wrong, but it's also really not right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How to Be Ace, a memoir of growing up asexual.
Great
Ooh.
graphic novel.
Literally life-changing for me. And
Yes.
healed
I
some of my
mean,
PTSD, so that was crazy.
dude, mine was in the 2010s as well. I'm just younger than you. Mine was in 2013. Was when I learned of the term asexual. 2013.
Yeah, it's got to have been similar for me. It was
Yeah,
well,
right or wrong gives us
yeah,
a starting point. Yeah.
yeah.
Trying to think for me, I think I knew about asexual around 2010s, but I didn't know that there was way more to it. I didn't even know about demi, gray. I knew none of it until like 2020. So very behind, but have been caught up.
I remember this is maybe, I don't know. I was in my 20s and I was learning that, like, oh shit, ace is like an identity that is an option, right? And I started like looking it up, but I would do it and I felt like a kid trying to hide shit from my parents. I was looking it up in like an incognito browser and like I was looking at like the Avon website and all these other things. And I'm just like, I should not have to do this in my own apartment as an adult. Like this feels terrible.
Who's gonna look at your history?
Well, like at the time I was with somebody that I was technically engaged to, who was allosexual and was kind of an asshole. So
Hmm.
I'm just saying that I felt like I had to like sneak around and figure it out. Which I shouldn't have had to do. But it was mostly
Yep.
based on who I was who I was with at the time.
Mhm.
Catching up with chat. Yeah, so I'm sorry. That's a lot
I'm
to deal
so
with
sorry.
growing up.
A lot to
Yeah.
deal with in chat,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but we're all here for you.
Absolutely.
There are, but I should say that we are not like
No,
healthcare
no.
professionals. So
Yeah,
So
none of
we,
us are licensed
yeah. So,
psychiatrists or therapists, and we do suggest that if you feel you need it, you should seek professional help.
there's only so much that I can do, and I would not have the knowledge base to be able to
yeah.
provide
No,
help.
I
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, no, we're just I have to put it out there because
yeah,
sometimes folks
Yeah, sometimes
I
people
want
take
yeah.
it to
yeah.
the wrong
Absolutely,
way.
of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a blanket statement.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just usually try to put it as a reminder because like I'm happy
yeah,
you're feeling comfortable to talk about things here. Just be obviously aware that like
yeah.
things can be particularly triggering to folks in chat.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
for chat as a whole, we are not licensed professionals. If you do need help, please seek it
Yeah,
through professional channels. That's all it
yeah.
is. It's just
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
safety measure.
absolutely.
Yeah,
A
trigger
general
warnings for
note.
sure. But I think keeping I think the abbreviations were really helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
Snowy,
Thank you so
because I know
much
some
for
folks can't handle
making
seeing it written out.
taking time to abbreviate and be really cautious about how you talk about it for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's not that it's not relevant. I'm just saying
No.
like
No, it's super relevant.
being mindful that not everybody comes into these kinds of discussions with that
Mm-hmm.
preparedness, and I
Yeah.
really appreciated that you kept it to an abbreviation. Is all
Yeah.
I was trying to say there, but we had already mentioned it like
Yeah,
earlier at the
absolutely.
start because like a number of us have experienced it, like a number of us have experienced similar like verbal abuse, emotional
Mm-hmm.
abuse, and so it's one of those things where like it is relevant to the discussions we're having because we're talking about the complexities of disability
Yeah.
and aspec identities, but it's also just like I always think being mindful of our language is useful, and so I just try to have reminders for myself
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of verbally tell others those reminders because my brain is like that,
Mm-hmm.
that we do have to be, just cognizant of all of our spoons, resources, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Are there channels for this type of stuff? Most people on Twitch. Oh no, exactly. I don't think it should be hidden away either. But it's just one of
No.
those things where like talking about things
Mm-hmm.
with the mindset that like too much detail can get us in trouble with Twitch.
Yeah, exactly.
But also too much detail can make other folks experience like triggering psychological episodes, and so we're just trying to be mindful that like everybody has access to the resources they need in case things like that happen.
Yeah.
And that we do our best to prevent what we can, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it is important, and it sucks what folks have gone through. Yeah. I don't think psychology and other therapeutic mental health professionals can talk openly on Twitch about these things because their license would be at risk if something were to be taken out of context.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to balance that. Like, I want to be able to help folks, like as at least this is my understanding. Like, I want to be able to help folks publicly, but also helping folks publicly can get you in legal trouble.
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
So it's just like, I understand why mental health professionals usually don't go too far into depth on their channels. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
I was trying. Sorry, I tried to make my acknowledgement of that clear. I do think you're trying very hard.
Yeah,
I appreciate
100%.
it.
We appreciate it.
But it
We
sucks
see
that
you.
like it's such a common. Yeah. It just sucks that like abuse and other nasty shit is such a common experience, not just for like ASPEC folks, but like disabled folks as well.
100%. Yeah.
High correlation, unfortunately.
Also, 100% Dant. It is one of those things where it's just people who do care work get burnt out really fast. And so coming home and doing more care work is a complicated problem.
Yep, 100%.
And
this is actually a good segue into the next question. Around, caregiver, being, a caregiver and receiving care. So amatonormativity does actually influence, at least in, many institutional settings, who is typically seen to be a caregiver. And in many places, if you go to the hospital, if you go to care homes, it's usually only folks in married or common law partnerships or folks within your immediate nuclear family that are seen to be valid caregivers unless they're given some sort of power of attorney. But for both folks in ASPEC communities, as well as many, many folks in disabled communities, caregiving can look very different and in many cases not at all involve romantic partners or one's immediate nuclear family. So how have amatonormative assumptions impacted your ability to receive care as ASPEC individuals, as disabled ASPEC individuals?
Well, for me, so I'm child free. I got my fallopian tubes removed a couple years ago. It was actually really hard to find a doctor to even be willing to do that because one, no doctor would take my asexualness seriously, and two, what if I change my mind? And it's just, it was always wild to me. And even the doctor that was willing to do it wouldn't do a full hysterectomy because I wasn't married. And I was just like, but what does it matter if I was married or not? Why are we holding back on the fictional idea of me having a spouse potentially one day in the future? It, and unfortunately, that actually happens a lot, mainly in the gynecology aspect. Like, even for regular checkups and things like that, as female presenting, as woman presenting, I get questioned a lot about future decisions instead of current decisions about my health. So especially when my biggest chronic illness is my PCOS, and so I have to go to a specialty gyno for that, and it's really hard to like just find, and these are all women too. I don't see male doctors. And so it's just really difficult to be taken seriously as a woman who's chronically ill, as well as someone who's asexual, because it's just like, what if? And I'm like, I don't live my life by what ifs. I would never get anything done in my life.
Yep.
Um, so that's my current experience, is basically in that particular sector, is that it can just be really hard to get taken seriously and get the care that I am looking for.
Yeah, I honestly, I've lucked out because, like, as most folks that I've talked to on a regular basis know, I, at the beginning of June, got my uterus removed. I just, and that was that was mostly for that, for like gender affirming care reasons, because I don't want to have a period. I don't want children. Because I'm not on hormone replacement therapy, I also don't, I had to keep my ovaries.
You kept your ovaries.
Yeah, because you need the
Yeah.
like hormones. And I
Yeah.
personally don't really want to go on T as far as I
Well,
currently
if
care
you
about,
don't
but
mind me asking, how
Hmm.
was your recovery from that? And what sort of,
so it
I
really
guess,
depends.
scarring? Do you have any scarring? Is a question that I have.
Yeah. Being ace and
Logistical
being
questions, because I
yeah.
kind of want to do that. I don't want that period out either. Fuck that.
Let's see. I am not a medical professional. I will say that it
No.
is
What
very
is
individual based.
your experience?
My experience is I had a laparoscopic surgery. So that's about 5 small incisions on different parts of like my stomach. That healed within the first couple weeks. Like the steri strips were coming off on their own. Like I think there's one that's still a little
Congrats
bit
on the
healing.
yeet. I love that.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeet.
I'm lucky because the surgeon that I got is new. As in like she's just full on got her own practice within the last year. And is very like updated in her knowledge as well as her social understanding. And so she just asked me, "Are you sure?" Like in terms of like, "You've thought about this," just covering her bases. I'm like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Cool." That was it. But yeah, I had 0 pain, which is apparently abnormal. Most people usually have some amount of pain.
Okay. Like what
But
kind
after
of
the
pain?
freezing,
Kinda?
like no, like nothing I got. Like like the some cramping I think some people experience, but like it's usually just because like you've
Like
had your
localized pain.
insides.
Yeah, you've
moved
cut some
about.
stuff.
But like after the like everything was said and done and all the like freezing and stuff wore off, I was maybe a little sore. But like within the first week I was like, yeah, I'm good. Which
Nice.
sucks because I'm not allowed to lift anything.
Right.
So after 6 weeks, I'm cleared to lift up to 20 pounds for 3 months, and then I can go back to regular exercise.
That's like
I was a unique
That's like one cat.
case. I can't lift my cat yet, but I'm almost there.
It's like 20 pounds is like only one cat.
But yeah, I would say that like in general, it's if you can navigate that system. It was a good experience for me, but I had a really good surgeon. Because of my Crohn's disease, and here's the other thing that gets complicated, right? Hi, Courtsy.
Pregnancy.
Because I had a major, what's called a bowel resection, so they took out about a foot of intestines in early 2010s, because of my Crohn's disease, and then they stitched me back together, and that caused a lot of internal scarring. And that caused some complications, but my surgeon was just really good and like kept going laparoscopically, which other surgeons might not have, which made sure that my healing time and my experience overall was good. But overall, like, it's a little difficult to like move your abdomen and stuff afterwards. But I will say that I talked to somebody else who also recently had a hysterectomy within the last month, and like we were both just like, it's weird how we no longer are aware of its presence, you know? But like we kind of were before. It's just a very strange experience. Definitely recommend. Also, it's very affirming to like my aspec identity in a weird ways, because I'm like, now I feel like there's nothing tying me to this compulsory sexuality. You know, I've
Oh.
I've removed all ties with this.
Mhm.
I'm
I felt the
free.
same when I got my tubes removed too.
It's I feel like it's just a freeing experience, and also for folks who like struggle with that and like PCOS, and I think it's also called PMOS, PMDO. I don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the updated terminology for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, since then it's like, oh, I don't know. I feel like a lot of folks just feel affirmed in terms of their identities, and like it removes one of the problems that's in their life. But yeah, I don't know. It was wild, honestly, but I'm happy to talk more about that later. I know I'm kind of derailing. Sorry, Dai.
No worries.
Nah.
But the fact that, I've heard so many folks have similar experiences to what Leatrice mentioned, and I was actually just talking to someone yesterday, and they said that when they were looking to navigate hysterectomy, several doctors said the exact same thing. Well, what if you want kids? And it's like them dictating what they believe your lived experience should be. And it all links back to compulsory sexuality, all links back to this patriarchal, colonialist, white supremacist power structure,
Capitalist.
unfortunately. Capitalist,
Mhm.
all the things all lead back to the same place. And it's so unfortunate, and erases your experience. All of it's linked.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
On the topic of receiving care, though, I know. So it was around the time that I was realizing I was ace. I was also dependent on the person I was with for that care, because Crohn's disease is one of those things where, like, not only was so for folks who don't know, it's an autoimmune disease that is tied to your digestive system, and the difference between what you'll hear as UC, which is ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's disease, because they're both what are called IBDs, irritable bowel diseases, is that Crohn's can affect the whole digestive system, but is not linked to potential cancers in the future. But the fun part about that, for me, is that my body was basically attacking its digestive system to the point where, like, my appetite wasn't really there. I was in, like, immense pain all the time. My body wasn't able to absorb enough nutrients, and so I was actually anemic, and I was, like, struggling to stay awake in my classes. And so obviously being at home and like having to keep up with undergrad as well as take care of myself was impossible. So I was very reliant on my spouses, or my ex fiance, but then fiance at the time. And like it made it difficult to justify the fact that I was ace to him, and that wasn't just me being like immature or whatever, or that it wasn't tied to my disability, because like he's caring for me, he sees how much pain I'm in. Maybe it's just linked to that, maybe it's a symptom of it, and it made things very difficult to navigate. At the same time, I think that like providing care as somebody who has gone through what I have is both easier and harder. So like I tend to be more defensive. I tend to be like, as soon as people are questioning my like competency, I get very defensive, and I have to kind of remind myself to stop. But I also think that I have more of a understanding of things just from my own experiences that leads me to be able to, what I'm able to put myself in a better position, like headspace for it, to provide care for others. And I'm more willing now, as somebody who is out as, you know, trans and ace and whatnot, to provide that care without feeling like, oh, I'm just providing care because I'm the woman or whatever in the relationship. So like, I don't know, I feel like I'm in a better place to provide care personally to others because of my experiences and because of my identity being removed from this stereotypical relationship kind of ideas. But I also think that like my experiences have also fed into my resistance to being like, I don't know if course corrected is the best way of putting it, but you know, like I'm kind of like, I question people. It's like, why are you telling me to do it this way? Like, I don't need your care. But I do. I don't know. It's a weird conflict.
Just looking at the time here, we do, unfortunately, Twitch is going to force ads on us in a minute here, so it might be a good time to just take one more break. That's all right with folks?
Yeah.
Step away, and we'll come back and finish off this particular question on the other side. So see you in a few minutes. All right, welcome back, folks. Thanks for sticking around. Had some really, really, really important discussions, and we've talked a lot about how so many of these assumptions, like compulsory sexuality, allonormativity, all really point to the same entrenched power structures that are designed to keep those currently in power, and how much it impacts us both as aspec individuals and as disabled individuals, basically designed to keep the marginalized, and just some really important discussions that we've had on so many fronts, and you know, including navigating, you know, care as disabled folks.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that folks want to add around, you know, amatonormativity and other kind of entrenched power structures and its impact on our ability to receive care, or, you know, contribute to, you know, the stigmatization that as disabled aspecs we face? Or would you like to jump to the next question?
What is the next question?
So that one is looking at the fact that we're all disabled content creators, many of whom are trying to juggle many things like work and school, or both, or work, school, plus extra things beyond all of the above. And that content creation is very much a hustle or grind culture, which creates a massive pressure to maintain regular schedules for viewership, and even the algorithms of many platforms, particularly TikTok, and YouTube, favoring creators with regularized stream and upload times. But
Mhm.
many of us here, in addition, obviously, to trying to balance multiple things, work, school, or other IRL obligations, disability and chronic illness can make it incredibly difficult to adhere to this hustle or grind culture that tells us, no, you got to keep this regular stream or upload schedule. So, what challenges have you, as a disabled content creator, encountered in your content creation thus far?
Well, something that I struggle with is just not having those creative juices, or not having the motivation or energy to do the creative things. So it's either I feel like I don't have motivation to do creative things, or I don't have creative ideas.
That is so valid, and
And I struggle with that a lot.
I very much can relate. There's often times where just don't have the energy in a given week to stream, or
Mhm.
to figure out what the stream is going to be. And it's definitely impacted my joy of doing things like Pokemon lately, and finding the joy in gaming even at times.
Mhm.
Sorry, I was eating chocolate
Nom nom.
as a way to. Well, and one, I wanted to eat it, but also I wanted to give other folks a chance to speak because I'm yappy.
Ha!
I love yappy lore. Flappy. I'm tired. See,
No.
energy level down.
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle to have the energy, but also like I will say that I'm a little bit of a weird case example because I don't hustle for no one. I don't. I don't want to go fast. I don't want to like when people are making me walk with them. You gotta match my pace. I also, when I'm streaming and I'm making content and stuff, I'm like, I want a consistent schedule because it makes my brain happy. But that's not going to be at the expense of like my well-being. And maybe it's because I'm just stubborn, but um like it's definitely one of those things where I don't know. I hate the expectation being there. And I feel like because of the expectation being there, because I'm stubborn and I don't like meeting those expectations, I feel like I resist it more. But then if I'm not streaming consistently or I'm not putting out art, I forget to do it.
Mhm.
Or I just don't do it for whatever reason. Um so I'm just trying to get in the habit of like looking at the month ahead, coming up with a tentative schedule, putting stuff like that out there, and then changing it as need be. But as soon as that like habit is broken, it's very hard to get back into it. It's so hard. That's probably the neurodivergency.
Mhm. That I feel.
100%, absolutely. I try to come up with a schedule every week, And it can be really difficult when I, suddenly end up spending, a 10-hour day the day before at the university to
Mm-hmm.
have the energy to jump on stream and be here with y'all. Thank you so much for gifting a sub to Snowy the Vamp, Hugster Duke. You are far too kind. Thank you so, so much.
I also I will say that as somebody who's like an artist and a writer, but also a PhD student and wants to stream games, it's very difficult to manage my desires to do things versus the fact that I'm just slow at doing things. Because of my partial blindness and unfortunately probably like bad seated perfectionism and all these other things, I'm very slow at doing art. I'm very slow at doing art. I am getting faster and I am trying to get faster, but not because like I want to produce more content, but because like I have so many ideas. I just want them, I want them all out there. But also because of my partial blindness and like the strain that it puts on my working eye, for lack of a better word putting it. I have to take more screen breaks, and like Tai and I can relate a little bit on here where it's like screens can be really hard on us after a while. And like if I'm doing a lot of PhD edits, doing streams on top of that and doing games and other things on top of it and doing the art that I want to do, which is right now digital, is really hard. And like I've definitely noticed that, excuse me, my eyes are not currently happy with me. Because I spent like 20 hours between 2 days last week trying to get PhD edits in. And they got in. I did it. No, not 10, like 20 hours. It was like 14 hours the one day. And then like almost 6 hours the next day.
Been there.
Of just straight editing.
Oh, that's
and
horrible.
now my eyes are so tired.
Oh, I can't even imagine. But I've definitely been in a similar situation, and the fatigue that creates staring at the screen for so long as well. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons I take regular breaks every hour, the reason I wear these purple tinted lenses or clip-ons is because I have, quite strong screen sensitivity, and by taking regular breaks and stepping away from the computer, it allows me to function better, working at a PC. By the end of the day, sometimes, the strain can just absolutely drain me. So I can totally sympathize with, trying to come home after that and then being like, how do I have the ability now to jump on and stare at the screen for another few hours for a stream?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sucks because like you want to do all these different things. Like I'm very passionate about my PhD project. And like I know not everybody is super passionate about like the things they do for work. But I on top of my passion for my project, I'm also passionate about like the shit that I do on stream, which is like, my art. And these are all pieces of me, and I've always struggled with the like, how do I juggle all of these hobbies and these things that I want to do?
Yep.
And I also volunteer outside of stream, and like I'm in a choir, so I sing, and like when my choir has a concert, I will have to not stream for that whole preceding week because like it's usually a rehearsal, a dress rehearsal, and the performance all in 1 week, and like my voice can only handle so much. And it becomes it's it's wild because like I think disability forces you to think about what your priorities are, but it can be very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Absolutely.
You have to make choices, and some things don't get the high priority.
Yep, unfortunately, I do have to prioritize school. I do have to prioritize work and my IRL obligations over content creation.
Mm-hmm.
So if something's, gotta be dropped, it's gotta be content creation, unfortunately. And
Also,
we,
I would say, Snowy, like, I'm pretty awkward and quiet. Like, I usually stream first thing in the morning for me. And as somebody who, like, I'm animated because we're talking about things that I'm very invested in.
Mhm.
But some streams I'm very monotone.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of flat because it's just, like, that's my default. I'm very, like, I'm not as expressive as a person like all the time as a lot of like
Mhm.
typical streamers might be.
Mm-hmm.
And I stumble over words. I'm awkward.
And
Somehow people still come out.
Yeah, and when I'm doing my own streams and I'm not doing these discussions, my own streams, I can often get very quiet when I'm focused, playing Pokemon and such. And my chat's a very different place in those cases. And it can be really difficult to, look at chat and see, well, there's nobody here. But then, and that can be
There's nobody in
really,
my chat.
yeah, and it can be really difficult.
They're all in Tai's chat.
But when you're playing rivals and stuff,
Mhm.
people come out. But also,
I'm
like,
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
yeah,
just making a comment.
Mhm.
yeah.
Like,
I'm sorry.
and
I take everything
that doesn't
seriously.
bother me at all.
No.
But it is true.
Mhm.
Yeah. Most people just come and lurk. Like, when my chat is really active, it's strange and sometimes overwhelming.
And it's usually me trying to
Mhm.
egg you on to have discussions about PhD.
Yeah, I would say like don't even look
No,
at viewer count. I
turn view count off because I don't want to know.
Mhm.
yeah.
Same.
I don't know. I don't really care who's watching. We're in whose chat? Sorry, what was that?
Mood.
Yeah, and I also
What's
don't
that?
produce
What's
like
that?
clips or
First
anything.
time chatter?
Called out. Often take my wheelchair anytime I go anywhere fun. Have to conserve what energy you have for work. Yeah. It can be very frustrating having to like balance your like needs and your where your energy is going. Because disability is one of those things that like kind of forces you to do that. If you hear the occasional squeaking, my spouse is singing in the shower quietly. That's not their voice. I just noticed that like sometimes my mic will only pick up the higher parts.
That's a cute emote.
Yes, that's snom binary.
That is Jams's lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
legal advisor.
You can redeem in Jam's chat to ask
I
their
snom
legal
him.
advisor, non-binary.
Snom.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really frustrating, but I also think that like disability and like reckoning with where I put my energy has kind of helped me learn what's more important to me. Which unfortunately is sometimes a day by day thing. And to everybody's dismay, except for mine. I should say everybody external to me, like external from the internet. Like my supervisor and family. My dissertation is not always that priority.
Also a mood.
But yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's definitely hard managing like all these different things. But I try to think of it in terms of like the content that I produce. I really don't like the art I do, the space I create in my chat on online is uniquely mine in the sense that it's going to be as chaotic and awkward as I am. I don't put on airs. Like, it's just me, which is maybe a problem. Writing sucks. I like writing.
I don't.
Writing is a task for me.
I'm not a writer.
I do not enjoy it. I've come to learn.
You're all missing out. I want to get back into writing. I want to, like, my creative writing, not my dissertation writing. That needs to be put aside.
Yes,
That need to be done.
I need that done too.
Also, I think the other like weird complexity, and then I'll shut up, is the fact that like my dissertation is about disability in healthcare, and a lot of it is my own experience, but also the experience of other folks. And every time I bring up my PhD topic, someone's like, I have this experience too, or something similar. And it's emotionally overwhelming. I don't want people to stop telling me these things because I'm like, yeah, this is just affirming the need for this discussion to happen. But like, it's hard. It's emotionally draining. I want to do the art that helps me refill that energy and to express those emotions. So it's very difficult to have things that are very connected to my experience and can be consistently talking about them while also wanting to do things that are not those things. I don't know.
Absolutely. And, I used content creation much like you as a way to refill my bucket to be able to focus on the dissertation. And it does take a lot of
Exactly.
energy.
Also, Tulip, I feel that.
Yes.
The writing process, great. As soon as you tell me to edit my own work, I'm like, no. No.
That's so hard.
I'll give it to you in 30 days. It'll be like a single page of edits.
Real.
Oh. I don't know if anybody else had anything, because I know, like Leah, you actually do clips and stuff, whereas I don't.
Yeah, that's new. So I have a very heavy loaded job emotionally. I work with neurodiverse individuals at my job, and it's a wonderful, rewarding job, but it empties my bucket a fair amount. Streaming is actually what helps me combat my depression
Same.
a lot of the time. So I'm able to stay consistent streaming, but clips, this is new. I found a tool to help me and it made life easier, but like I used to be consistent with clips and then I got really bad burnt out and really bad depression and I stopped for like almost a full year. Started again for a little bit and then easily got burnt out again. And then finally July, I felt so proud of myself. I got clips for 3 days a week for the month of July. Let's see how that goes. I'm not expecting a repeat for August, but we're gonna try. But I am a hustler. That was my dad's raising way, and I can't break it out of me. So I easily burn out very, very fast with my chronic illnesses. The depression really kicks that into gear. It just loves me so much that it wants me to do nothing. Um, so yeah, no, I definitely feel it, and it's definitely hard. I definitely have learned, like you said, Laura, how to prioritize what is important to me, and it's not always stream stuff. It's not, I at least keep consistent with streaming, but outside of that, I'm just like, you know what? I want to read my silly little books and go for a walk when it's not 125 degrees outside. And
Jesus.
yeah, I live in the desert.
Yeah, it's bad.
It sucks. And you know, just live my life. And at first, it was really hard not to feel guilty because I really want to succeed. And the hustler in me is just like, I'm not doing enough. I was bred to be a racehorse, and unfortunately, I've not been racing. But I'm slowly getting, you know, I've started a medication journey for my depression, so I'm slowly getting the help I need. I'm figuring that out, and I've been lately finding a very nice balance. I don't know if it'll always be maintained that way, but I will take the wins when I can get them.
My current issue is that I don't think that I have a regular, consistent amount of spoons to be able to have a full-time job
Hmm.
and also do other stuff.
Yeah.
Fair.
So I've been feeling myself slowly dipping into burnout for a while, and I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
So I got a tattoo.
Oh, real. If I had tattoo money right now, we'd be covered.
Oh
So,
god.
and it's really tough because
Yeah.
like the full-time job is what allows me to have the lifestyle. So I really need to keep that.
Yeah.
But the
Is there
tattoo looks really good.
Yeah. It's I don't know what I'm gonna do when I actually I love
Same.
that tattoo, honestly.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm gonna do when I actually get to the job market.
same. I've been
Um,
struggling for the same reasons as you.
yeah, it's a whole thing, right? Because like I love being in these spaces, and like I personally, I'm gonna like push back about against this like mindset. Because Snowy was talking about like feeling selfish if it's not for money or something or somebody else, like doing things. Um, I'm gonna push back. Be
Yeah, tulip,
selfish.
exactly. Like I have to have the full-time job. I need
Yeah.
that monetary support. We
Mm-hmm.
can't live without that. Like
No?
we might be a dual income, no kids, but it's not enough anymore. You both need to have full-time jobs
Yep.
and practically be making six figures each to be able to live comfortably.
Especially
That's
where you, like depending on
ridiculous.
where you are. Like my spouse and I are very lucky in a weird, unfortunate way that like we're able to like I don't have an income, um, and they're also paying for my tuition. But I will say that like there are certain things that have happened, like their nan passing in the last couple of years, and their father who passed away about a decade ago. That side of the family's farmland being sold off that has allowed us to be able to do this stuff. So it's like a weird, unfortunate, but like fortunate situation that we're in. Um, but like I know once like I'm done, I'm going to have to work, and it's going to be a struggle because like I love doing stuff like this. I love
Mm-hmm.
talking with folks. I love having the flexibility of a schedule, but also the potential for a schedule.
Yes.
And I think part of like I always worry about doing things selfishly and being self-centered and doing things that are like not aiding other people because I worry that people in my life will leave if I'm not like catering to their existence, we'll say. But I also think that like my way of healing from the people pleasing has been to do things selfishly a little bit. And so streaming is a little bit of a selfish thing. I started it because I wanted to have an excuse to play more games and to do more art, and that has been successful. I would not be an affiliate streamer if Tahi didn't drag me through a bunch of raid trains and throw opportunities at me like, here, why don't you do this? This seems like
That's
up your
funny.
alley. And then like Peach was similar. Like you started coming to my chats and being like, oh look, this is what I'm doing. And then like Leatrice shouting me out, and like all the like other streamers being like, oh hey, like here are the opportunities we have. Why don't you go try it? So like it's just wild to me that I'm sitting here, but like I also think that a little bit of the selfishness was needed. Because it wasn't that I was like prioritizing myself over others, but it was prioritizing things that brought me joy over systems and assumptions in place that I only needed to be productive and that I only needed to be something for other people. And doing that helped me, like Taiyu was saying, like refill my cup so I could do my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
I was really struggling to do my PhD until I started streaming. And now I'm like a couple months out from being done.
Same.
So,
I am very similar situation to you. It is the content, it's the activism work that I do that has finally gotten me to a place where I feel like I can actually finish this thing. Prior to that, it was a day in, day out slog, and it was just creating so much grief for me. And it's the content work, it's the activism work that I do that gives me the energy to then go and do battle against this dissertation that's been a constant thing in my life for the last nearly 10 years.
oh God. I'm not at that point, like where it's been nearly 10 years for me, as you know, but I'm not that far behind you.
I mean, I've been putting off getting my PE for over 10 years.
It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
Finally happening.
Yeah.
Yippee!
We'll
It's
see.
difficult. Yeah.
For folks who might be wondering what I'm playing with, it's a little brain. So
Brain.
yeah, I don't know. It's got like the whole structure to it,
Yippee!
but it's like a stress ball. Yeah, I don't know. It's so complicated because like I think part of navigating disability and like queer identities and stuff though is prioritizing your desires and your needs and the things that you want to do in your life while also being part of community, because like you can't fit into the narrative that society tells you to fit into. It just won't work. And like you can try and try and try and it's not going to work. And so at that point you can decide, do I be frustrated and just like keep trying, right? And be frustrated with myself? Or do I abandon that and go, how can I do what I want to do while being part of community? And so like I volunteer my time. I put part of what I earn on Twitch, which is not much, don't be mistaken, towards like mutual aid fundraisers and like donating to Palestinian folks and who are living in Gaza and that sort of thing. So I try to put like some of what I have back into spaces and places that need it. But I still like streaming is very much just a selfish desire because I want to prioritize the things that I like doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, people say getting angry because you say no, that's entirely on them.
Yep.
If you say no, I can't do this because it'll hurt me, or because I don't have the spoons, or I just like maybe we do this later. If you was trying to establish a boundary and your own safety, and people go, "Well, I'm mad at you now," that's a reflection.
That's on them. Yeah. And I've had to cut a lot of people out like that because of those situations.
Simply not wanting to is also fair because like I find if you really aren't invested in something and it's not like a situation where somebody urgently needs help and it's not harming you.
Is healthy.
Mood.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not invested in it, you can say no, so long as obviously like it's not somebody's last resort and you're just like, you know, not interested or not in the mood. That's where I'm like, I would like to help people, even if I'm not invested in helping them in that moment. At least I'm a stepping stone to them getting other help, and I'm not hurting myself. Mm-hmm. But if it's like, oh, do you want to do this for me? And it's like non-consequential and you're not invested, it's like, I can say no. I have a friend who has a pool in her backyard. She inherited the house from her grandparents, and I guess her grandparents used to let the neighborhood kids occasionally swim in it. And now my friend is in the position of trying to explain to her next door neighbors who can see into the backyard that I don't want your kids in my pool because most of the time you're not there attending to them, and I don't want to be liable. But she has this streak of being a people pleaser. So I'm like, you can say no. It's your property.
Yeah.
It's nice to allow people to use the pool sometimes, but the neighbors just complain about the stuff you're not doing. Yeah. Just say no.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So remember, the option to say no should always be there. And if it's not there, then I think those people probably shouldn't be there either.
100%
At least in
agree.
your life.
100% agree.
But I will say that maybe I'm weird in that way where I'm like, I will burn those bridges. Not everybody is in the position where they
No,
can.
I completely appreciate that, and conflict is difficult for me to handle, and I don't like saying no. But over the years, I've had to learn how and when to say no, and start building more boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's helped me be able to get through these past several years.
I'm bad at saying no still, but like
Mhm.
I'm also happy to say no to folks who
Yeah.
are, I don't know, butthurt, for lack of a better way of putting it. When
Mood.
I say no, especially when it's not in my control to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've got something going on or I'm not well.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I'm like, okay, that's it.
Bye.
We're done.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy to deal with you and
No.
me at the same time.
Exactly.
Real.
Can't do both.
Nope.
We've talked a little bit about, the fact that many of the spaces that we're in are very, disability forward. And, I think many of the spaces like Wear Your Stripes and, the spaces like the DC3 and Spoon Platoon are, have a very different perspective on how content creation can occur. And, how do we create spaces for more flexibility around content creation that doesn't look like this hustle and grind culture that many people push, on YouTube or TikTok or Twitch. We've talked about this we haven't directly talked about it, but I think we've talked about it to varying degrees here. Is there anything else you wanted to add around, creating, online communities that are disability forward and, make space for, content creation that's more in line with our lived experiences as disabled content creators?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know. Go ahead, Leah. I'm like,
No,
I'm
sorry.
just
You
puzzling
go
my way through
ahead.
it. No, you go. I've talked too much.
Yeah, never enough. But I think even in our disabled friendly spaces, I feel like we need to focus a lot more on equity a lot. I feel like we focus on a lot of singular type of accommodations, which is great. They still need to be shouted out and talked about and helped with because certain plugins aren't easily Googleable and things like that. But I do see like sometimes like certain accommodations that just don't fit everyone, especially when certain raid trains like require them. And it's just like, well, it's great that you're promoting this and you really want to highlight this, but what about other people whose disabilities would actually not work with that plugin or something like that. So I just think, and it's hard because there's so many disabilities out there, and so many ways people perceive and move throughout the world. So it's not like a perfect solution, but I do think it is a discussion to have, because then at least we're trying.
Absolutely. 100%. And, our lived experiences are all, even within disabled communities, very different. So the way that we experience content creation can be very different from person to person. And it is a challenge for sure.
I also think that like stepping off of what Leatrice was saying, I find that sometimes people will meet a statement with, and I'll give an example, with like, yeah, but, or like, they'll meet it instead of with, openness and like, yes, and kind of energy, if we're going to go into improv, and like, the idea of, if we're trying to make the world a better place, you can't just stop at the first thing. You go, this is great, let's move on and do more of this.
Agreed.
But like, there was somebody, so I manage a local queer Discord server, and recently-ish, somebody mentioned that they didn't understand why the pride that was local to my section of the city was less corporate than big city pride. And I was just trying to explain that like my neighborhood and my community like section of the city is actually not a rich neighborhood. It's like comprised of various income and other levels of like identity intersections and like all this sorts of stuff. Like a lot of it's rental properties, not just like folks owning houses. And the folks that do own the houses are like they're small homes. Like they're usually, unfinished basements and that sort of thing. Like it's not like the homes are not worth millions of dollars like some areas of where I live. And I was just trying to say like the like this is why I was just trying to provide information, and somebody else comes in being like, yeah, but to folks who can't afford rent on subsidized or subsidized rent, like owning a house is rich. I'm like, I didn't say it wasn't. But what I'm trying to say is like there are certain parts of our city that are very well off, and there are certain parts of our city that seem well off, but it's actually a collection of different like income and other levels of resources and privilege. And I've definitely had people meet me with that kind of resistance every time I've tried to explain a thing or say, hey, we're moving towards something. And it's incredibly frustrating. And I find that it's helpful to have those little pocket communities like Warrior Stripes, like Spoon Platoon, where you can move towards certain progress and you can create and the Collab Hub, where there's like different resource channels in the Discords that you can pull from, and you can inform each other and you can be supportive of each other, and everyone's doing their own thing, but you can come together on certain issues and you can let people opt into what they're able to do and opt out of what they're not. It frustrates me when people meet that with, well, I can't do it now or otherwise or at all, therefore you are bad for making me feel bad for not being able to do this. It's a little bit of a contentious issue that I have, where it's like, part of it is trying to communicate online can be very difficult, but the other part of it is like, you gotta like come at what people are saying with a principle of charity, which is just to say that assume they are meaning the best intentions behind what they're saying, and be inquisitive, ask questions, see if that's actually where they're coming from. If it's not, then we can start getting a little bit frustrated and whatnot. But if it is, then we gotta move forward. You can be like, yes, and we can do more. I know I'm seeing a thing about captions. I would love to see more captions. Excuse me. I also struggle with the idea of having multiple captions. I don't even know how to make captions work in my own stream half the time. But I think that there are various tools that we're pulling out that are becoming more and more proficient is not the right word. Prolific is not really the right word, but it's closer. Prominent? Like, we're seeing more
Available?
accessibility tools available. So I'm hoping that pushing for more change and saying, this is good, but we can do better and we can do more is still the way I'd like to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't disagree, sorry. I try to go with when people recommend that I get something from certain places, if I've asked, like, oh, where did you get this? And it's not somewhere that I buy from, I usually just try to go, like, I try to avoid places like this, but do you know, like, the company that makes this? Or do you know, like, so I can try my best to do what I'm able to do without, like, intentionally being like, well, I'm, frowning on you because you're investing in this particular company. There are certain things that I would say that we need to avoid, like, in terms of, like, certain creators that have known to be extremely harmful. Like, we don't have to be giving money to folks that are not actively, or like that are. Amazon's a weird thing where it's like, I understand why people go to it. I understand that it's cheap and it's affordable for some folks and it's more accessible for some folks. Whereas, putting money into the pockets of somebody who is just producing merchandise or books and is actively using the money from that stuff to, harm trans folks. I feel like there's lines, right? Like, there's things that we can be like, probably shouldn't support this, but might need to because of resources. Definitely shouldn't support this because there are other things you can do.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Boycotting is a privilege, but, like, you can boycott certain things. Like,
Exactly.
it's all within your means, right?
Mhm.
Like, my spouse and I live around the corner from McDonald's, but we have not touched that McDonald's in 6 years, I want to say, because of boycotts.
Mhm.
But that's something that we can do.
Yeah,
It's very easy
exactly.
for us to do.
Yeah,
I know not everybody can do certain
exactly.
boycotts
Mhm.
because of food deserts or other kind of
100%.
problems.
Absolutely. Do what you can.
Yeah.
And, people need to give folks the space to account for these sorts of things. And you often in many places don't have any choice but go to like a big grocery store because there's literally no alternatives, or the alternatives that exist are so expensive you can't afford to go there. So a lot of these things, you do what you can.
Yeah. Do
But
what's within your
yeah,
means.
exactly.
It's a difficult thing because, like, with disability, it's a nuanced discussion because some things you can't get even locally, right? And so you
Yep.
do have to buy them online or through, like, large distributors.
Mhm.
So boycotting is not going to be fully accessible across the board. But even if you can't do, like, the big things, you can do the smaller things.
Yep.
Or the things that are easier for you to boycott. Or, like, with activism, I try to go from the mindset of, like, do the smallest thing you're able to do. Right? even if you're just starting there and you can work your way up, or even if you don't, at least you're doing something. So like I know somebody who I learned about recently who's actually in my choir. I did not know he did this, but he carries around little food and water kits. He's got a water bottle, he's got like a protein bar and something else. I think he used to put change in, and now he's also going to be putting some bus tickets in. And when he's going about his day, if he sees somebody who is houseless and who needs something, he stops and drops off this like little care kit. And there are things that you can do that are within your means. There's lots of folks online who don't have the money but do like mutual aid raid trains. There are folks who do resource compilations where they go like, I can't do a lot more than just like make a very easy to access and understand place where you can get all this information. But at least I can do that. Like there's different ways to be active in terms of social justice. And there's also those like, because I understand the multiplicity of like ways that you can be active, I sometimes do push back and say like, okay, I understand this thing that people are saying to do is inaccessible to you because of whatever reason, but what can you do instead? I don't know. I feel like we all need to be kinder in how we hold each other accountable, but I also think that like we shouldn't stop expecting folks to gradually become better people. I don't expect like night and day changes in people's demeanor or like understandings, but I do expect like, oh, I've been informed. Like Tulip was informing me what I had said was tied to the essay kind of bullshit that people do. And like, I learn. I note it. I have a post-it note that says avoid this. I will ingrain it. I will learn. I will not do it again. When you get new information and you're like educated on something, it takes time to incorporate, but you shouldn't not try. Is I think what I'm getting at.
Absolutely. So we are coming up to nearly 3 hours, so I am being mindful of time here. Do we just go ahead and skip the next question and go to the final question at this point, do you think?
I have no idea where we are anymore.
So we're still on question 5. Do you want to just skip to the last question around affirming dual identities as an aspec individual and disabled individual at this point?
I'm happy to do that because I have a place to be tonight.
Yes, so let's just finish at this point with, the question, how do you affirm your dual identities as an aspec individual and as a disabled individual? And, what does pride mean for you?
Well, pride for me personally just means being my authentic self, regardless of the expectations others place upon me. And to support and uplift others as well, because pride isn't just about me, it's about us. Um, and I affirm my dual identities just honestly by talking about my experiences. I find sharing them, whether to the void or to the world, that it validates my existence and hopefully encourages and inspires others to do the same, because there's only one of me, but that doesn't mean I don't have shared experience that could be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Love what you said there. 100%.
I have to agree. I think like I talk openly about my experiences because I know had I seen and heard somebody doing the same in the past, it would have helped me a lot sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And I think pride for me is affirming my identity vocally and outwardly, but also internally. But like openly, because then I can show others that they don't have to, I don't know, not internally affirm themselves, at least. Like, I feel like we need more folks being casually open, even while it's safe to do so. There's obviously all these kinds of caveats, but like, in order to create spaces where this is not a new thing. And so I talk about my disability, I talk about my ace identity, I talk about my queer identity, I talk about, growing up poor, I talk about like a lot of different parts of my identity that have fed into where I am now and who I am now. And I think Pride allows me the space to do that more vocally, like in terms of queer pride and disability pride months. But I also think that the pride that I have in myself and how far I've come, however tenuous and fragile that might be some days, I do think that it's allowed me to be able to be vocal.
Absolutely can relate with that. And,
420.
Yippee! A big part of the pride and, the big part of what I do here on the podcast as a co-facilitator of an Aces in Aerospace is so that I can help folks learn and have the space to come to understandings of things that I wish I was able to learn, before I was 30. And so by creating these spaces, I feel like I'm able to help others come to learn what I wasn't able to learn until much later in life. That's how I show pride personally.
Yeah, so you can want and desire those things while still being disabled. It's just that for a lot of folks on the ASPAC podcast, it's a weird nebulous thing where, like, if you are disabled and you're also ASPAC, you want to be able to affirm the ASPAC identity parts of yourself while also realizing that the outward spaces might assume that because you're disabled, you don't want it.
Exactly.
It's weird.
It's a really difficult situation for sure. Each?
I feel like it's just giving yourself space to exist in the way that you need to.
Absolutely. 100%.
And not trying to throw yourself in a box.
Nope.
There doesn't have to be a box.
Nope.
No box.
Nope.
So
I exist in a nebulous blob of a space.
Mood. 100%.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I'd like to say thank you so much to everyone who's showing up today in the chat, shared their experiences. Huge thank you to Leatrice, to Lore, to Peach for sharing their experiences today and, having some really, really, really important discussions today.